So good afternoon, everyone, or rather good evening, everyone. Ekenem Onyobuna Nonyelai Tata. For those of us watching online, I say welcome to this August occasion. And once more to every one of us here, first of all, I will start by apologizing and saying that we are deeply sorry for starting slightly late than we planned it. Now today, just for us to know, what we are doing today is basically a presentation of the 2020 Igbo conference on OHANAEZE that was titled OHANAEZE Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. As you are aware, we had a two-day virtual conference involving major Igbo stakeholders at home and many in the diaspora. Those events took place on the 20th of September 2020 and the 4th of October 2020. Ndi Igbo deliberated, made suggestions from all unions. And one thing that was a key takeaway is that the deliberations, the suggestions made reaffirmed the notion that Ndi Igbo, that we are Republican in nature. Onye ọbụla bịara kwuo uche ya, kwuo na ị ka ga-esi mee ka ọhaneze dị mma, maka na ọ bụ na ọ balụ isi, ọ bala agụba, maka ọdịmma anyị niile bụ ihe a na-ekwu maka ya. Iji bido ihe a bịa tata, m ga-eji ohere a wee sị na biko tupu anyị ebido ka anyị kpọkue Chukwu nke nọ n'igwe. Amaghị m ma Bishop, is the Bishop here so that we can pray quickly? Back office, if the Bishop is not yet here, can we have the second stanza as our prayer, then we kick off? Thank you. So thank you once more for that. To just go straight and quickly to the program of today, I would want to invite Mr. EMEKA Ugoju, the chairman, Event B and C Fabs. EMEKA will now give us his opening remarks.
Ndị be anyị dejeno nọn onye ọbụla zalụ nke a na-eto ya maka nkenekwa onye isi anyị bụ Chief NNIA especially etu esi wee na-edu ndị Igbo ọfụma. Anyị gbakọrọ tata ịnụ isiokwu nkata anyị kpalụ na webinar conference ofu na abụọ maka ibe gbasara ọhaneze ndị bekee na-akpọ Communique. Onye ga-agụ Communique a n'asụsụ Igbo ya na asụsụ oyibo wee ezigbo nwa afọ Igbo, Dr. OKEY IKECHUKWU. OKEY ekene m gị. O nwekwara ife ndị ọzọ a ga-akpọtụcha aka tata, mana nke kasị mkpa bụ na onye isi ọhaneze Chief NNIA ka agwa anyị etu ọhaneze si welu na-akwado maka ndọrọndọrọ ịrọpụta ndị isi ọhaneze ga-ebido chibe anyị bido na Jenụwarị 2021. Onye ọzọ ga-ekene ọhaneze gbakọrọ na webinar tata welụkwa gwa anyị obere okwu bụ Barrister HANNIBAL UWAIFO, onye ndu otu a na-akpọ South East South Professionals. Biko ka m welụzie ohere a were kpatụ obere aka n'ihe m nụrụ ọtụtụ ndị Igbo na-ekwu maka izu anyị gbara na webinar 1 and 2. Aga m ekwu nke a n'asụsụ oyibo. What did I hear many Igbo say about Ohaneze after the webinars 1 and 2? I'll start by saying that they now say that they know that Ohaneze is not a club made up of some Igbo elders, politicians, and the like, but an organization whose membership comprises of all adult Igbo, male and female, who are not mentally challenged. Bakwukwa say that Ohaneze should aggressively promote Igbo language renaissance. That they want an Ohaneze that has a very energized and active town union representation and participation. Asikwa an Ohaneze of equal members, where women and young adults are co-stakeholders and not appendages. A financially buoyant Ohaneze funded by dues and donations from all members, big and small. We should not be dependent on subventions from state governments. And Ohaneze should be an organization that will have the capability and capacity to ensure that every vote counts in all elections in Igbo land. Expectation is high from them that the upcoming Ohaneze election should be seen to be very transparent and reflect the will of the people and not that of a few. Because an Ohaneze that will be insulated from partisan politics, but will have the capacity and support of Ndi Igbo to hold all politicians in our Igbo accountable to the electorate. This last point offers me an opportunity to bring to the attention of Ndi Igbo an important matter that we have overlooked in Nigerian politics, and that is that the Igbo nation does not have a political pressure group or association in the mold of Afenifere, Ariwa Consultative Forum, South People's Assembly, Middle Belt Forum. And that has allowed Ohaneze to play a role that is not structured to play, and that has impacted negatively on Ohaneze's main focus of developing Igbo. And it will surely get worse, taking into consideration the activities of certain individuals, supported by some forces at Abuja who have in their possession a certificate of registration of Ohaneze ICSA. Let me just expatiate a bit when I'm comparing Ohaneze and Afenifere. Afenifere is made up of followers of Awolowo ideology. It's not a political party, and it is not an organization that has town unions and various associations as members or structures. It's just made up of followers of Awolowo who are very passionate about his ideologies of free education, so on and so forth, and defending the Western region. That's why you can see a Shogun Mimiko, who could be in Labour Party or PDP, but also a member of Afenifere, while others are in APC and so on and so forth. That just gives you an idea that Ohaneze is totally different from this group. Same goes for Ariwa. They're a collection of people who can sit in one place and discuss about Ariwa agenda. They don't have any town union or any state branches that they have to hold accountable to, and they don't have a business of culture and so on and so forth, which Ohaneze is saddled with. So this is an opportune time for Ndi Igbo to midwife their own political pressure group that will comprise, I will suggest, pillars of MIA ideology, which in today's world means focusing on turning Igbo into Africans, South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, or Dubai, and also has zero tolerance for corruption. With your permission and support, I'll reach out to the following distinguished Igbos who are always ready to serve the Igbo nation to urgently meet and brainstorm on how to quickly create such a pan-Igbo-centric MIA ideology-focused, non-partisan political pressure group that is independent but accountable to OHANAEZE. Not in any particular order, but I'm going to begin with Chief NWODO, Chief Uzodimma Okpara, Dr. Ogbonnaya, Mr. Peter Obi, Dr. Chris Ngige, Senator Inya Baribe, Dr. Kema Chikwe, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, Professor Osito Obu, Professor Kingsley Moghalu, Chief Mrs. Josephine Anene, Chief George Moghalu, Senator Uche Ekunife, Right Honorable Chibudom Uche, Engineer Chris Okoye, Senator Chris Anyanwu, MAAZI Sam Ohuabunwa, Professor Patu Tomi, Chief EMEKA Diwe, Dr. OKEY IKECHUKWU, Architect Ferdinand Dago, Nnanna Animude, MAAZI TOCHUKWU EZEOKE, Ambassador Humphrey Ojiako, Chief Uchenna Mmadu, President Aki Kenga, Coordinator Igbo Intelligentsia, George Agu, Deputy President Southeast South Professionals, Honorable Linda Ibazo, Chief Delia Jufo, President Igbo World Assembly, President World Igbo Congress. Going forward, it will be the ideal organization that will be supported by Ndi Igbo to engage with similar associations in the country. OHANAEZE will then focus more on the socio-cultural economic development of Igbo. Ndi Igbo, ekene munu.
Thank you very much, EMEKA, for that wonderful opening remark. Once more, EMEKA UGWU-OJU is the chairman, events B and C FABs. And for us to continue now, because obviously we are trying to catch up, so we will be very quick. I will be inviting Barrister HANNIBAL UWAIFO, who, as EMEKA has introduced before, the president of Southeast South Professionals. So I think Barrister HANNIBAL, can you please take the floor now? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. EMEKA UGWU-OJU. I want to thank you for your introduction. The Southeast South is a very, very important component of Nigeria, and a very, very big, even bigger component of the Southeast South professionals of Nigeria. When we talk in terms of our agenda, that says 2023, which means the development agenda for the Southeast South. Briefly, I want to say that the issue, the Southeast South professional of Nigeria is an advocacy group, and we began our journey long ago, realizing the need for the Southeast and the South to cooperate because of proximity, because of intermarriage, culture, so many similarities between Southeast and South. In Calabar, you know, we began the journey arising from the South professionals. We decided to join it together, the Southeast professionals, South professionals, with the likes of EMEKA UGWU-OJU and our founding president, Mr. Emmanuel Ejewere, and several other members, George Etomi, Ambassador Joe Keshi, so many of our people who began this journey to ensure that there's a cooperation between the Southeast South. And at the end of the day, we formed the SESSPN, which began with which we call SESSPN. SESSPN means Southeast, South professionals of Nigeria, starting with Njenje, like I mentioned, followed by leader EMEKA UGWU-OJU, who handed over to Mr. Denzi Kentibe. I'm the current president of the Southeast South professionals. Like I said, the idea is to ensure that there's a common agenda, economic, social, and cultural. Political, yes, because of the proximity between both. And that's the idea for Agenda 2035. So I believe that with the proximity of both both component states of this Southeast, our belief is that we could have common services, common economic development, and common agenda in order to enhance our development, as done in every other state. We have the European Union now. We even have commonwealth of states, like in the US, in Canada, you have different states, different parts of regions coming together to form a commonwealth that has developed so fast, overthrown world economies, overthrown political ideologies, and have brought prosperity and wealth to the country. So the Southeast will move on. We are not a stricter sense of a political group. We are an advocacy group. And we believe that with the formation of groups like Ndi Igbo, the Benin National Congress, the PANDEF, so many organizations across the Southeast South, like Ndi Igbo, like what has happened in the Southwest, and even in the North, we should have a common agenda. Although we are all professionals, but we believe that groups like Ndi Igbo should also have similar cooperation, that you have a common goal with other organizations, the Robo Union, the Security Union, the Benin Congress, the BPOs, the Calabar. We need to now get that on to ensure that the Southeast and the South-South have a common agenda where we can draw from, where we can draw a common rope in order to ensure the prosperity of these regions. I want to thank the organizers of this conference, but quite frankly, my initial comment here is that Ndi Igbo is doing so well, and I want to commend the leadership of NNIA, our leader and our father, for what he's been doing. And I continue to pray for him for long life and prosperity for him. He's a great leader, one of the most talented in our times. And I pray for you and your family and the entire Ndi Igbo race, that God Almighty will continue to protect you as we move forward. But we need you to move a little further. We need to get these groups to the Ndi Igbo to invite these groups. We need to cement a relationship, and it will enhance the dreams of these component groups, and it will better the lot of SESSPN, even when we're not a political agenda. So thank you so much. I believe that's my first shot.
Okay, thank you very much, Hannibal. Thank you for that, submission you've made. And I think your submission is very well understood, that we require a common agenda, and we should also work for a common front. Having said that, we will now come to the meat of the matter here today, which is the presentation of the communique. And we will have the privilege to have this presentation done by Dr. OKEY IKECHUKWU, Executive Director, SPECS Academy. Now, as EMEKA noted before, this presentation will be done both in English and in Igbo. Dr. OKEY, you can now have the floor and make the presentation of the communique.
MAAZI.
Yeah.
Okay. MAAZI ekenem gendebanye ekenem unu.
Dodoli.
Unu na anu.
Very loud and clear, sir.
Okay, Dalun. Afambo OKEY IKECHUKWU. I welcome all of you. My task is to read out the communique arising from the meeting, and here it goes. Communique of the 2020 Igbo Conference titled OHANAEZE, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. Following a two-day virtual conference involving major Igbo stakeholders at home and in the diaspora, held respectively on 20th September 2020 and 4th October 2020, Ndi Igbo all over the world through that medium deliberated, resolved, and hereby state and affirm as follows. Number one, that the conference provided an opportunity for Ndi Igbo to discuss issues affecting their well-being and proffer solutions on how they can thrive and actualize their potentials as a people. That the current OHANAEZE leadership, its affiliated organizations, and various Igbo platforms which took part in the conference be commended for their commitment, frank contributions, and continued comments after the event. That strategic commitment and sustained efforts be made to promote Igbo unity and interactive value creation through women and youth inclusion in order to mainstream gender equity and enhance OHANAEZE's cross-generational appeal. That a strategic plan for OHANAEZE's future engagements be articulated, action points itemized, and specific problems addressed exhaustively. That the tension in the country today is traceable to the structural imbalance of the federation, political marginalization, social and economic injustice, and stifling insecurity. That a sustainable future for Ndi Igbo must be based on the following three clear points. Number one, a clear understanding of the past. Number two, absorption and utilization of the lessons of the present. And finally, a well-articulated engagement template for the future. That the templates for youth involvement in OHANAEZE affairs going forward should include a mentoring process that will produce a credible replacement generation. That OHANAEZE structures at the levels, including town unions, should be made relevant and effective as instruments for the reality of OHANAEZE beyond the national. That modalities be put in place for effective funding of OHANAEZE's structures and activities. That the concept of Ala Igbo Development Sustainability Fund be properly articulated and urgent steps be taken for its establishment .
Okay, I think, sorry once more there. I think the internet connection, as usual, is playing up there. Pardon us for that slight glitch. So we will try as much as possible now. Okay, sorry. Okay, he's back. And back office, can you please unmute Dr. OKEY once more?
So where was I? I wasn't even, I didn't even know
yes,
I had gone
it's
up.
about, you know, it's about a minute that you were cut off. Sorry, you can continue.
Okay.
Sorry.
So could you remember the last point I made?
Okay, I think hold on. I think you stopped on the structural imbalance if you can start from that a sustained future for Ndi Igbo must be based, then that should be fine.
Okay, fine. That a sustainable future for Ndi Igbo must be based on 3 major pillars. Number 1, a clear understanding of the past. 2, absorption of the lessons of the moment, absorption and application of the lessons of the present and the moment. And finally, a well-articulated engagement template for the future. That the templates for youth involvement in Ohaneze affairs should include a mentoring process. That Ohaneze structures at the state, local government and ward levels, including town unions, should be made relevant and effective. That modalities be put in place for effective funding of Ohaneze structures and activities. That the concept of ALIBO Sustainability Fund be properly articulated and urgent steps for its establishment and activation put in place within the shortest possible time. That the role of Ohaneze as a socio-cultural organization and the demands of contemporary politics be managed with the necessary dexterity and group consensus. That Ndi Igbo should adhere to and promote the positive values that project and enhance the Igbo reputation for enterprise, dynamism, and community building. That Ohaneze should continue to pressurize the Nigerian state to urgently address the mounting injustice, frustrations, and marginalization driving the demands for a fundamental review of the Nigerian Union. That the solution to our current national malaise and the strident calls for separatism is dialogue, fiscal federalism, and the restoration of a constitution that is truly a product of the people of Nigeria. Finally, that Ndi Igbo continue to affirm their belief in and commitment to joining hands with all ethnic nationalities in Nigeria to build a peaceful, just, united, and prosperous nation. We affirm the foregoing as our collective resolve in the conference and append our signatures and seals to this document as a communique arising from the conference. It is signed by Dr. Umailazo, Dr. Kalu Idikakalu, Dr. Umailazo OON, Dr. Kalu Idikakalu OFR, Senator Chris Anyanwu MFR, Dr. IKECHUKWU MNI, Honorable Dr. Chris ASOLUKA, MAAZI TOCHUKWU EZEOKE, MAAZI Sam Ohuabunwa OFR, Engineer Sir Chris Okoye FNSCE, Professor Patu Tommy, Mr. Nnanna Anyimude, Architect Ferdinand Ago, Ambassador Umunna Humphrey Ojako, Mr. Andy Wabali, MS Ezine Anyanwu, Mrs. Ifi Bozimo, Chief EMEKA Diwe, Major General Obi Omahi retired, Dr. Nwachukwu Anakwenze, Professor Anthony Ejiofor, Lolo Kate Ezofo, Mr. C. Dal Uzo, Mrs. Ndidi Obioha, Vice Admiral Dele Ezoba retired, Senator Enyinia Abaribe, Right Honorable Chibudom Muche, Ambassador Joseph Keshi, OON, His Royal Highness Ambassador LOC Agobozu, OON, Chief Emmanuel Iwanyanwu MFR, OFR, CFR, Mr. UGWU-OJU, who is the conference host. and this represents the content and imprimatur of the proceedings of the Igbo Conference of 20th October and 20th September and 4th October, respectively, as rendered in English. Back to you, MAAZI. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. OKEY. That was very wonderfully done. At some point, I felt like that was one of the best newscasting that we've listened in a very long while. So, but I was expecting, maybe Emeka could put me right, I was expecting to have the Igbo version as well. Is that correct? Or the Igbo version will be distributed?
No,
Yeah,
it's
okay,
here.
okay.
It's here. It's for you. You were to announce it. I'm ready.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Then, okay. I was thinking that we'll have a transition.
Okay, so
On that note,
seamless. Okay.
Okay. So, Biko, maka ndị na-ege anyị ntị, kita anyị agụsigo nke agụ n'ọnụ bekee. A ga-ekwuzi ihe ndị Igbo gbakọtara wee kwue na webinar nke emelụ nke izizi na nke ịbụọ ihe gbasara ọha na eze nke taa na nke ọ ga-esi wee dị echi. Ụmụnna anyị niile ma ndị nọ na ebe dị iche iche, ma ndị nọ n'obodo oyibo, ndị nọ n'ụzọ ije, ma ndị nọ n'ụlọ gbakọtara ọnụ wee kwekọrịta wee sị na etu a ka ọ ga-esi wee dị. Biko, Dr. OKEY ga-agụziri anyị ya kịta n'Igbo.
Ndị be anyị ekenekwa m unu ọzọ. Ihe m na-agụ mkpebi na nkwekọrịta nzukọ Igbo 2020. Ọhaneze ụnyaa, taa na echi. Na ngwụcha nzukọ ụbọchị abụọ enwere nke ndị na-akwadosi ihe gbasara Igbo ike, ma ndị nọ n'ala Igbo ma ndị nọ n'ofesi a na-akpọ diaspora, nke enwere na ụbọchị 20 ọnwa Septemba nakwa ụbọchị 4 n'ọnwa Ọktoba n'afọ a. Ndị Igbo nyochara ihe dum na-eme n'obodo anyị ma wekọta ọnụ kpebie, kwekọrịta ma na-ekwupụta ihe m na-aga ịgụpụta ugbu a. Nke mbụ, na ọgbakọ nke a enwere nyere ndị Igbo ohere ịtụle uche gbasara ihe ndị metụtara ọdịmma ha ma tụpụtakwa atụmatụ etu ha nwere ike isi mee nke ọma ma mekwa ka enwemike ha dịka otu agbụrụ ma ethnic group pụta ihe n'ebe ọbụla ha nọ. Nzukọ wee kwukwa na ndị isi ọha na eze ndị na-achị ugbu a, otu ndị ọzọ dọnyere ọha na eze ukwu, nakwa otu ndị Igbo dị iche iche nọ ebe dị iche iche, ụchasị ndị ekwesịrị ịja mma nye ha ezigbo ekele maka agbammbọ nakwa obi ọcha na obi dike ha ji wee pụta ya bụ nzukọ, tụpụta atụmatụ bụ ihe ha kwuru ka ọ dịrị Igbo mma. Nzukọ kwukwa na a ga-eji akọ na uche gbaa ezigbo mbọ ịkwalite ịdị otu ndị Igbo ma kewapụtakwa mmekọrịta bara uru site n'iwebata ụmụ nwanyị na ndị ntorobịa n'ihe gbasara ọha na eze. Ka nhatanha ụmụ nwanyị na nwoke hapụ iwu nsogbu, nọ n'ime kwekọrịtakwa na mmasị ndị ntorobịa n'ebe ọha na eze nọ ga-agbalite elu ma ọ na ndị ntorobịa ahụ na ọha na eze na-akpọbata ha n'ihe a na-eme. Na a ga-atụpụtakwa atụmatụ etu ọha na eze ga-esi ọrụ n'ihu, depụta ọrụ chere ọha na eze n'ihu otu otu ma gbalitekwa gbochie nsogbu dị aṅaa nwere ike ibilite ma ọha na eze na-arụ ọrụ dịrị ya. Nzukọ kwukwa na esemokwu dị n'ala Naịjirịa taa gbadoro ụkwụ n'okike nkegbu federation anyị nọ na ya, akpamoke mmegbu eji achị obodo, ndọrọ ndọrọ ọchịchị aghụghọ eji achị obodo, na nke security onye ọbụla na-aṅụzi kagari ebe ọbụla ọ nọ n'ala Igbo. Nzukọ kwukwa n'ọdịnihu ndị Igbo ga-enwe nkwado ga-agbadorịrị ụkwụ n'ụzọ ihe atọ. Ihe nke mbụ bụrụ gịnị? Nghọta doro anya gbasara ihe meburu ndị Igbo na mbụ. Nke abụọ, nghọta doro anya na-egosi ihe nkụzi na ihe a ga-amụta na ihe na-eme ndị Igbo kịta. Nke atọ bụrụ gịnị? Usoro ọrụ echepụtara ọfụma maka ọdịnihu ndị Igbo ka ọhaneze were ya na-arụ ọrụ na-aga ka ọ dịrị ndị Igbo mma. Nzukọ kwukwa na usoro ga-agbasa na usoro a ga-agbaso maka ọzụzụ na otito ndị ntorobịa kwesịrị inwe ụzọ ndu na nhazi nke ndị ọcha na-akpọ mentoring, nke ndị be anyị na-akpọ ịgba bọị. Mana ihe nzukọ na-ekwu na akara nke 7 awụ na ụmụaka na-achọ ka ha bịa n'ọhaneze ghọọ mmadụ echi, na ndị okenye ga na-edu ha, na-ezi ha, na-ahazi ha. Site n'ime ha na-aghọtakwana ndị na-ege ntị, a ga-awụ echi edunye ha ozi, ha aga ozi. Nzukọ na-ekwukwa n'owuwu ọhaneze dum, ma nke nọ na steeti ma nke local gọọmenti na wọd kwa, tinyekwa otu obodo nke a na-akpọta union n'ọnụ oyibo, kwesịrị ka ha nwee nke ha na-eme a na-ahụ anya, dị mkpa, dịkwa ire. Na ọ dịghị mma na a ga-asị na ọhaneze nwechara owuwu na ebe ọbụla onwe nke a na-anụ ha na-eme. Nzukọ kwukwa ka a hazie usoro a ga-esi na-ewepụta ego were kwado ọhaneze na ọrụ ya. Na ọ dịghị mma na a ga-ezi dimkpa ozi n'aha ọhaneze, ọ na-aga ozi n'aha ọhaneze, ọ bụrụ na akpa ka ihe o ji aga ozi si apụta, na ihe a na-emebi ọ na-emebi ọrụ, ọ na-eme ihe kwesịrị imeta agaghị emeta ọfụma. So nzukọ na-ekwu na Igbo kwesịrị itinye uche, tụọ alo, kpaa nkata ka e wepụta ihe ga-eme ọhaneze ka ọ na-arụ ọrụ ọ kwesịrị ịrụ, na-ayọghị onye ọbụla biko. Nzukọ kwukwa na ekwesịrị itinye uche n'ihe gbasara ala Igbo Sustainability Fund, hazie ya nke ọma, wepụta usoro a ga-eji mee ka ọ dị ire, ma hụkwa na ya bụ atụmatụ bụ ihe nwere ike ịmalite ahụ ya ka ọ na-aga ije n'oge na-adịghị anya. Nzukọ kwukwa na ọrụ dịịrị ọhaneze dịka otu omenala na mmekọrịta mmadụ na ndị Igbo, ndị bekee na-akpọ socio-cultural organization, tinyekwara ndocha ahụ nke ndọrọndọrọ ọchịchị, that is its role as also onwe ndị na-atụ anya ka ọhaneze mee ihe gbasara ndọrọndọrọ ọchịchị. Na ihe ndị ahụ ihe dị mkpa na-eji akọ na uche na nkwekọrịta, that is consultation, onye ọbụla were hazie ya nke ọma ka ọ hapụ iwe ọhaneze kwuche otu onye esi n'ogbu tebụl gbapụta kwuo nke ya. Ọ dịghị mma. Nke a bụ ihe nzukọ kwuru. Nzukọ na-ekwukwa na ndị Igbo kwesịrị ịgbaso ma kwalite ihe ọbụla n'ụwa na-ebuli aha ndị Igbo elu, gosi na ha wụ ndị azụmahịa, ndị na-agba mbọ, ndị akọ na uche ha zuru ezu, ndị ụjọ na-atụ, nakwa na ha wụ ndị ga-awa ebe ọbụla ha nọ obodo ahụ ha ga na-akwalite. Nzukọ kwukwa na ọhaneze kwesịrị ị na-aga n'ihu na-acha gọọmenti etiti ọkụ dị egwu, na-agwa gọọmenti ka ha jiri ọsọ ọsọ leba anya na mmekpa ahụ juru ebe dum, n'ihe aghụghọ juru ebe dum, n'ihe nkụda obi na-eme ndị mmadụ uche ha na-adịkwa n'ala nna ha wụ Naịjirịa, n'ịkpa oke mmegbu. Na nke a bụ ihe na-ebutecha mkpọkụ maka ilegharị anya na njikọ Naịjirịa. nke a na-asị na ndị na-achọ separation. Nzukọ wee kwukwa na ọgwụ ga-agwọta ọrịa niile nwere n'obodo Naijiria taa, tinyere oke akpọmoku maka nkewa, na ihe ga-agwọ ha dum wu mkpakọrịta ụka, dialogue. Usoro federalism ga-awụ ọwụ onye ọzọ rụcha onye ọzọ eburu gbalaga. Ịhazi ego Naijiria, ikekwana ya mma ego otu ọ ga-awụ ọwụ onye ọzọ richa mmanụ ada onye ọzọ n'ahụ, nakwa iwu obodo Naijiria ka a hazie ya ka onye ọbụla buru n'obi na-aso nwere obodo. Nzukọ wee na-ekwukwa na ndị Igbo ga na-aga n'ihu na-ekwupụta okwukwe ha nwere na nkwenye ha kwenyekwara n'isoro ndị agbụrụ ndị ọzọ nọ na Naijiria bụ ndị other ethnic groups jikọọ aka mee ka obodo dị mma, wuzie obodo soro nwere obodo. Obodo enwere ikpe a na-ekpe ikpe kwụ ọtọ, obodo adị n'otu, ma nwekwa akụ na ụba a na-eke ruo onye ọbụla na ọ wee ihe ga-eme obodo adị ụtọ. Anyị na-akwado ihe ndị a niile ngụpụtara dịka mkpebi na nkwekọrịta niile ndị Igbo na nzukọ a na-ekwu maka ya. Anyị na-ebinyekwa aka na ya wụ ihe edepụtara a na-akpọ Communique na akwụkwọ a dịka nkwupụta nke sitere na ya wụ nzukọ. Dịka de Emayokpara gị wuse, ajọ onye kwururu nke shasị ha ọwụ mekara. Igbo edepụtala keshi aha akara. Ọ dị ụka pụtara na ya kpọọ ha, ọ dị onye ga-egba ọsọ, dịka onye ga-esi ụjọ ha ọ dị ya. Ndị tinye aka n'okwu a ka m gosi aha ha wụ Dr. Omailazo OON, Dr. Kalu Idikakalu OFR, Senator Chris Anyanwu MFR, Dr. IKECHUKWU MNI, Honorable Dr. Chris ASOLUKA, MAAZI TOCHUKWU EZEOKE, MAAZI Sam Ohuabunwa OFR, Engineer Sir Chris Okoye FNSCE, Ọkammụta Pat Odinachi Utomi, ọkammụta wụ prọfesọ maka onye na-amaghị ya, Maazị Nnanna Anyimude, Ogwo Ferdinand Ago, onye nnọchite ụmụnna Humphrey Ojiako, Maazị Andy Wabali, Nwada Ezinne Anyanwụ, Oriakụ Ifi Bozimo, Chief Emeka Diwe, Major General Obi Umahi, retired, Dr. Nwachukwu Anakwenze, Professor Anthony Ejiofor, Lolo Kate Ezeofor, Maazị Sidal Duru Uzu, Oriakụ Ndidi Obioha, Vice Admiral Dele Ezoba, retired, Senator Enyinia Baribe, Right Honorable Chibudon Uche, onye nnọchite anya Joseph Keshi OON, His Royal Highness Igwe Ambassador LOC Agobozo OON, Chief Emmanuel Iwanyanwu MFR OFR CFR, Maazị Emeka Ugwoju, nzukọ ọgbakọ. Ndị be anyị ọgwụkwa ka ọ dị m n'ọnụ n'ọrụ uru nyere m ịgụpụta ihe ndị Igbo kwuru na nzukọ a. Ndewonu.
Ndewo nwanne anyị nwoke bụ Maazị Okechukwu Ikechukwu. Ịgụrụ ma gụkarịkwa ndị nta akụkọ ọ bụ ọrụ ha. Anyị na-asị gị jide ka iji. Ndị Igbo niile nọ n'ụwa niile gbaa gburugburu na-asị gị na imeka. Tupu anyị aga n'iru, m ga-achọ bikonu ndị niile nọ mgbe edere, ndị nọ na webinar nke izizi nakwa nke abụọ emere, ndị niile tinyere okwu ọnụ nke ndị oyibo na-akpọ ndị mere presentations. biko ọ bụrụ na o nwere onye n'ime anyị nwere ajụjụ ọ ga-ajụ. Ohere a bụ nke anyị na-akpọ Q&A, ka ọ bụrụ na a ga-eji ohere a wee wenie aka enu na ihe anyị ji eme mkparịta ụka nke a na-akpọ Zoom. O nwere ebe a na-apịnye aka, epinye ya, o gosi ọcha blue, then o wee gosi anyị na o nwere ihe ịchọ ikwu. So ọ bụkwa na o nweghị, anyị ma na m ga-eji ohere a wee kpọnite isi onye isi anyị bụ onye isi ọhaneze, bụkwa na onye ndu nke ndị Igbo, nke bụ Chief John NNIA, ka ọ bụ bịa gwa anyị okwu dịka mgbe Emeka na-ebido. Emeka nwe otu o si kwuo okwu si na ihe anyị ga-eji wee pụọ na nzukọ anyị nọ tata. Otu ihe gbara ọkpụrụkpụ dị ebe ahụ bụ na anyị ga-ama ka esi na-akwado maka inwe ndọrọ ndọrọ, maka inwe election, iji họpụta onye ga-ewerekwanụ ya bụ ọfọ oji n'aka ugbu a. Ọ bụ mmadụ ka ọ ga-ahanye ya n'aka. Etu a ga-esi wee wepụtakwanụ onye a ga-ahanye ya n'aka, na ọ ga-adịkwa na ọ bụkwa ihe ọ ga-abụ emesịa, na ọ ga-amasịkwa ndị Igbo niile nọ n'ụzọ ije ma ndị nọkwa n'ụlọ. M na-eji ohere a na-akpọlite nna anyị ukwu bụ Chief John NNIA, ka biko ka o were ọnọdụ ugbu a ka ọ gwa anyị ncha niile nọ ebe a, na ndị Igbo nọ n'ụzọ ma ndị nọ n'ịntanetị, onye ọbụla gwụchara ntị ya na-eche ka ọ marụ ihe ọ ga-agwa. Nna anyị ukwu, udo dịrị gị, Chief John NNIA. Back office, can you unmute him? Okay. Chief, yes, we can hear you now, sir.
May I first of all speak a little bit in English, because we have a guest, HANNIBAL UWAIFO, who I believe does not understand our vernacular very well. And my courtesies go to you, TOCHUKWU, for your very brilliant coordination of our discussions on the 3 occasions that we've been on this webinar meeting. I'd like to also thank EMEKA OJU for his altruism, his foresightedness, ingenuity of his calculations, and his capacity to bring all of us together to look at our past, our present, and make very brilliant projections for the future. I wish I had a template like this when I started, but I think it will be very useful to my successor that all these experienced people have put their heads together and put together a number of suggestions for the future. I'd like to thank IKECHUKWU. Okey's fluency in Igbo is outstanding. I've always known him to be an erudite intellectual, and I thank you, Okey, for your depositions. I have listened very attentively to the English and Igbo versions of the presentation. I am a little excited because it looks to me like in the currency of this tenure, we have greatly awakened the consciousness of Igbos to take more active participation in the affairs concerning our people. It's been a turbulent time. We've seen a general election handled in a most disgraceful manner. We have seen a continuous organization of Ndi Igbo. We have seen an angry youth, sometimes expressing their anger in very unacceptable language and making our struggle more complicated and difficult to handle. But I am very happy to listen to all the suggestions made. Those that are necessary for me to implement before I leave office, I will rapidly so. But I also note that a number of the things that you have said, we're already working on, like the stabilization fund. What is of interest in this discussion is, or probably of renaissance interest, is the next elections. I must say that the election that gave rise to our assumption of office was very well handled. I think it became easily acceptable because of its transparency. But I must also give credit to the leaders of thought of Enugu states, to whom the presidency was zoned to. They had meetings and reached a consensus. And that consensus appeared to have been accepted by the rest of Igbos. And so the election was really not very contentious. I have sold the template to Imo, and I have been informed by Chief Iwanyanwu that Imo leaders of thoughts of all political parties and of all ideological persuasions have met and are still meeting. And they intend to present Ndi Igbo with recommendations. Of course, their resolutions are not binding on the Electoral College. There will still be a vote. And so every candidate is free to stand for election. But I think that everywhere in Igbo society, kindred groups tend to try to see that they reach an agreement on such contentious issues in order to preserve our unity and solidarity. Let's see how this works. In the next few days, we will be announcing the Electoral Committee. The National Executive met on Thursday and has almost finished compiling the list of members of the Electoral Committee. They will be totally responsible for the conduct of the election. The National Executive Committee will only be an appeal court. And we don't know how many members of the National Executive will be seeking to be elected to other offices zoned to their states. And if there are any, they will not participate in any deliberations of the National Executive Committee referred to it by the Electoral Committee. But I do pray that we will have nothing referred to us, because it is very clear how the election proceeds, and it will be done in open day and watched by all interested parties. So I don't think there's any room for any manipulation whatsoever there. Every state of the 7 OHANAEZE states will hold congresses in which they will elect their delegates to the election. And affiliate organizations will also do so, depending on the number of delegates assigned to them. So we're good to go. Thankfully, we have saved substantial resources to finance the Electoral Committee's work. It was not easy, but we thank God we have. So, but we welcome anyone who is charitable enough to help. I am very, very, very excited to have listened to all that have been said. And it shows me that we are all putting our minds on the Igbo cause. I listened to EMEKA's opening remarks and his recommendation for a political pressure group. I believe this will be a work in progress. In the beginning of my tenure, I appointed a planning and strategy committee. The essence was to distill from it a political pressure group. I was chairman by Dr. TOCHUKWU, and the secretary was Ferdinand Agu, who is part of the signatories to this communique. they've tried their best, but I believe that its leadership has been severely engaged in many distracting endeavors that has made it difficult for it to do its best. My difficulty also is that you have also in your recommendations included a number of legislators and what have you. It is either that the legislators do not have time for these Igbo meetings or they do not care about it. I visited them and met with them, and they told me they would call me back to discuss with me, but they've never done till today, and I'm almost exiting. I wish that we could all be more enthusiastic like this, the participants in this webinar discussion, to be selfless and give up some of our time for the sake of our people. I notice a very serious disconnect between our children and ourselves. And you have highlighted it here in your report about mentoring, about OHANAEZE undertaking mentoring of the youth. But, OHANAEZE really cannot become a broad educator. It is only through the stabilization fund that we can revamp some institutions that mentored many of us on this discussion. I give you a few examples. When I was young, I was sent to live with teachers. My senior brother, the first son of my father, lived with Mr. Etiko, a teacher. He lived with Mr. Raphael Ubu, a teacher. He told me stories how he had to sleep outside by their kitchen on an occasion that one of those he was living with had a compromising circumstance. And it didn't matter what position my father was in, but it was important that a child be sent to a teacher who would bring him up in a hard discipline, who would flog him at will and bend his incapacity to respond to acceptable norms. I spent time with Father Njenje, a lot of time. I had to wash his car, I had to iron his soutane, I had to accompany him to sick calls and things like that. Quite apart from this, we had the Festival of Arts. And there was hardly any one of us who didn't do a solo recitation, who didn't participate in some plays. And all this literature had moral education in them. It sharpened your diction, your intonation, and your capacity for conception of ideas. To be honest with you, a broad majority of our youths do not have this. Many times when I talk to them on mentoring speeches, I remind them and remind our leaders that Chino Achebe went to a primary school in native Ogidi. So did Ekwensi. And they came out tops in the world. Because the quality of education in every primary school in Igbo land, under Azikiwe and Okpara, were as good as the other. I went to a school that my father's driver's junior brother went to. He was my classmate. He ended up a permanent secretary and I ended up a minister. There was no class stratification. It was a matter of how much your intellect could push you. I believe that with the stabilization fund coming on stream, we may be able to rebuild some of those missionary schools, some of those private schools, like the ones Albany did and what have you. And I do hope that the private sector, and here, EMEKA, I think you have to start another webinar discussion. We need the private sector to take over the stabilization fund. I don't think governments can handle that. I have circulated the interim report of Professor Wu's committee to all our governors so that they can make their input before we hit the ground. But, even getting them to stick together to meet on it has been a very Herculean task. And I thought that it would help the stabilization fund if businessmen know that our governments can guarantee accessibility to land, accessibility in terms of road and infrastructure, so that when they make investments, they are sure that there is security for their investments. I do hope that they will soon do something about it, because when I traveled to Port Harcourt with Governor Mai, who is the chairman, he assured me very vigorously that they were working hard on it. So, ekene munu, kene onye ọbụla na-ege ntị na nzukọ anyị nwere na alo niile atụrụ iji wee nye aka ka ọhaneze gaba n'ihu. Ọ tọrọ m ụtọ rinne na ndị be anyị welitere isi mara ife dịka ndị unu kpọrọ afa sayịnụrụ akwụkwọ a na afa tinyere aka fa n'akwụkwọ dị etu a maka na amamife fa ụbụrụ fa ije fa jegoro n'ụwa na ife fa mụtara n'ije a fa tinyewado fa ncha na ife fa dere n'akwụkwọ. Ama eji m aka na nwere onye Igbo ga-agụchasị ya ife agụrụ anyị tata. Obi ghara ịdị ya mma maka na o nwere ife m na-akpatụrụ aka. Obi ga-adị ya mma kebụl bụ na uche anyị dị na ọdịmma be anyị. Anyị kpọrọ ya ọrụ. Anyị si na osita dị mma na ọ ga-adị mma. Anyị si na gaba n'iru na ọhaneze ga-abụ ife anyị ga-eji wee na-ejikọnata onwe anyị. Anyị ga-agba ya ume. Anyị ga-eke ọkwụrụ sie ike. Ọ na-abụ elu asị na Igbo adịghị enwe eze, mana ọ bụrụ eziokwu. O nwere ebe ọbụla ndị Igbo bi fa na-enwere otu na-ejikọta afọ ọnụ. Otu afọ na-agba mbọ na-enyere ibefe aka. Ndị na-enwere ike ịzụ nwa afịa agbanyefe ego. Onye arụ na-arụ aya ma o nwere ike ime ife maka ya, a na-enyere ya aka. Onye Chineke kpọrọ fa na-agbakọ aka kwanyere ugwu a na-akpọ onye Chineke kpọrọ. So onye na-achị na anyị enwere eze amadịfe ọ na-ekwu ife mmerụ bụ na anyị bụ ndị ọ na-asọ ka anyị tụta alụ n'igwe, ka onye ọbụla tinye ọnụ ya n'okwu a na-ekwu, ka ọ ga-abụ ife anyị ji mere isiokwu ọ bụrụ ife onye ọbụla kwekọrịtara ya. Ọ bụ nye bụ ife Emeka UGWU-OJU kụziri anyị na nkata anyị nwe. Onye ọbụla tinye ego uchie, onye ọbụla ekwugo uchie, ekpokọnata nke niile mmadụ ncha kwekọrịta denye ede. Nkwa m ga-ekwu unu bụ na ka m ga-anọ ọnwa na-abụọ uche m ga-adị n'akwụkwọ a. Aga m na-agụ ya kwa adọ tupu m tinye aka m n'akwụkwọ ọbụla, ka m malụ na ife ahụ m kwuru na imirikiti n'ime ga na-abata n'ife anyị ga-eme. Nke ọzọ m na-ekwe unu bụ na o nwere onye anyị bụ n'obi ka ọ bụrụ onye ga-ewere ọkwa President General Ọhaneze. Ọ bụ ndị Igbo ga-ewepụta ya. Ana m ayọ Chukwu ka anyị mee ya n'udo. Onye anyị wepụtara n'ofu obi mee ya n'udo, ọ ga-ama na ọdụdara biya ka ndị be anyị si ekwu ya. Ọ ga-ama na ndị banyere ya arọ. Ọ dịkwa nnekwute, ọ bụ nnekwute ife bụ na ndị raka ndị Igbo nechasịrị ofu onye si anya dubefa. Ọ bụrụ ife a na-asụ n'oyibo asị na ọ dị very humbling. Mana onye nna ya ziri ozi ji ụkwụ agbawa mbọ. Ọ na-abụ ncheta unu si wee kwado m n'ije njem. Ọ na-eju m afọ. Akwadoro m n'ego mana akwadoro m n'ije ụkwụ. Onye nyọrọ jere anyị ozi o jee ọ masị desi weta ego. Ọ na-eju m afọ rinne. Ana m ayọ unu ka nke kacha nke bụ ka anyị tinye anya etu anyị ga-esi nwee ka anyị ga na-esi atọ ụtọ. Ime obi ọhaneze etinyego ya bụ okwu ọnụ wee sị na onye ọbụla bụ onye Igbo ga na-atụ opekata mpe ya bụrụ 100 naira a month. Ana ebe ọbụla ndị Igbo bi na ife ndị oyibo na-akpọ parochial organization, just town unions and so on, na fa ga-abụ agents na-collect ego a. And a ga-enwe ife a ga na-enyefa in their parochial organizations as commission for ego of animals. I need to go website last week. Website I gonna print receipts on your Najuku. Ogane wetanya bo receipt once you call. Nabo agane egosi ebenya bo ego banyere. Agane egosi ego na atụta. So na ọ ga-agba ndị mmadụ obi etu ya. Anyị enwekwa ife a na-akpọ bronze membership, diamond membership, and gold membership. Ndị a bụ ndị aka siri ike ga na-ewepụta ego na-atụnye. Fatunye ọhaneze ichie fa membership ahụ. Bụsọ ọ bụla ha chọrọ ikpukwasị okpu na ndị na-enye aka ka Igbo gaba enweta ndị dị etu a. Biko daalụ n'ụsọ na nkata o juru m afọ unu nye m ofere ka m kwuo m obere okwu a. Daalụ n'ụrinne.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much once more. Na ukwu ọ bụ na anyị geba dịka isi ekwu eto okwu mmanụ eti ude anwụnta na-atagodi mmadụ na ọra akụnwu ya aka maka na a na-abụ mmadụ ga-abụ kekata asị m na amarọ m na ọtụtụ n'ime anyị ga-asị na ọ dịka ka ọchịchị ga-agwụ na-agwụ mana anyị bụ ndị na-akwanyere usoro ugwu ọnwa na-abụ ka ọfọ mana ọnwa na-abụ dịka isi ikwu anyị na-enwe nchekwube na ihe dị ukwuu ka ga-eme and anyị nwekwa nchekwube na a ga-enwe a very peaceful transition. Now on that note, to deepen the conversation regarding those that will lead Ohaneze, Njenje Media TV will be organizing what they would call know your candidate. So all those, vying for the PG-ship or the presidency of Ohaneze in the next couple of days, they will be coming on Njenje Media TV live for discussions and for them to basically tell us what they are bringing to the table. On that note, we have one question here, and that question is from Njideka Kanu. I think, I'll put this question out there, but maybe our father, Chief John NWODO, could help us answer this question. He says, why are all the key leaders of Ohaneze all male? The female are not well represented. Partly, I think this question has been, somehow was addressed in the last two sessions, but, for the benefit of the fact that it has been asked here, can we quickly do justice to that question, then we can proceed. Yes.
Yes. The gas nature Queen of England. Family motto Nabo Ilulo Faja Nakapalo. If I Fadelu Niabo Nans also he who dares wins. Leadership cannot be thrust on you. You have to wedge out leadership. The fact that you're a woman does not in any way disqualify you from leadership. You can't sit in your house and somebody will present you leadership. If you are an Igbo person and you know you have an Igbo organization called ANTHEM, find out how to be part of it. If you're a youth, you should join the youth branch. If you are in a state, you should join your state branch and attend its activities. By so doing, you get acclimatized the activities of ANTHEM and how to become prominent in it. So don't stay back. I do hope that you get involved with the electoral committee, announce the procedure for nominations, and if you want to be an officer of OHANAEZE, you can buy for any of the positions up to your states. Second, it is not true that women are not participating. Lots of young and old are participating. During the COVID early days, for instance, in India, we had a gathering of youths. And we distributed a lot of COVID relief materials to them, which we got from a lot of donors, as well as fertilizers that enabled those of them who were into gardening and farming to use. And I was very excited to see the enormity of young girls. There were almost more than men who were participating in this. With regard to the elders, I mean, the women wing. The head of the women wing is Mrs. Nwafo. Mrs. Nwafo is a very responsible married woman from Abia State. Her husband was deputy before. She herself was a top civil servant and ended up as federal commissioner. And she served out her tenure and is in retirement now. And her children are a perfect example of the kind of mother she is, distinguished in education. Now, we have Mrs. Aziki, who has been part of many of our activities. The other day, I went to the company of and then the company of Professor Joy Ezilo, you know, these are eminent men in our society. I mean, one has been minister, the other one is a professor of law, has headed many voluntary agency organizations that have tried to give skill acquisition to our youth and accessibility to foreign encouragement in their various activities. So the room is still wide open. And I do hope that you should be one of those aiming for a lot of young people to become part of this executive. You know, in this executive that is outgoing, we have a hybrid of young and old. My deputy is a retired deputy inspector general. Now we have vice chairman from states that do not have president general and deputy president general. In Delta State, our vice president is Dr. Ebigwe, the dentist. He's been head of IKECHUKWU. In Abia State, our vice president is a retired commissioner of police, EMEKA. In Anambra, one of you in Lagos, Charles Odunupe, is the vice president. Our legal advisor from Anambra is the senior advocate of Nigeria. Our treasurer is a chartered accountant from Delta. Our deputy legal advisor is the attorney general of the Boyan State and served in one of the federal commissions at some point in time. So we have upped the quality of people on the table, and we should, under no circumstances, reduce it because it makes the quality of discussion very high. I hope that I have satisfied EZEOKE in my response to this question.
Thank you very much for that wonderful response. I think the feedback and the response is honestly more than enough. And we have in the next 5 to 10 minutes, we'll be rounding up, and we would want to use this opportunity for feedback. And for the panelists, if any of us want to make any comment or any submission, please, you have to use the hand button where you can raise your hand, then you'll be called upon. I have two attendees waiting to ask questions or basically make their submission known. Now, I think back office, if we can elevate Nobu Uchechukwu. Nobu Uchechukwu, please, you can just quickly for 30 seconds ask your question. You're on now. Nobu Uchechukwu, go ahead. You can unmute yourself, then Don Nzedon, Net 4 Radio. Any of you, you can unmute yourself and speak. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, sirs. It's me, Nzedon Franklin, the CEO Net 4 Radio London. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Please, I have very important question, which one or two questions which I would like to ask, which bothers me a lot. One is, the question goes to Chief John NNIA, the present president of OHANAEZE. Last time we had about a small problem or a big problem inside OHANAEZE, that OHANAEZE was registered by some members of the same OHANAEZE, which they said CQC or so, they registered them, they went to court, the certificate was given back to them. At least I have a copy of it. We want to know how far on that. Is it true? Is it not true? What is the current state of OHANAEZE? Because it's a problem which I personally would be interested to know.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So we go to the next. Sorry, sir.
Another question. Sorry.
I said you have 30 seconds. So, we have to be very conscious of time. You've taken.
Okay,
So I need Noble Uchechukwu, please. 30 seconds. Then, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity and privilege to be on this very wonderful panel. Since I have just 30 seconds to speak, the communique is very clear, beautifully presented in our Igbo language, captures everything, captures every discourse, and everything that we have looked at. The future of OHANAEZE is a bright one. The future of OHANAEZE is a wonderful one. One thing that the outgoing administration has tried to do, and which has also been elevated by this special webinar series by Chief Communique Of Ohaneze. Thanks so much to him, my president and BOT member at the Southeast South professional, is the fact that a consciousness has been raised, a new consciousness has been raised. Now, OHANAEZE is no longer that association that a few people might think is just for a category of older people. No, the young are involved. The females, the ladies are involved. Our sisters, our daughters are involved. This is all about us, the Igbo-ness in us, what we believe in, what we aspire, what we look forward to. And so it's a call on everyone. Tell others, let many others know. Let us all join together in this one umbrella that speaks. The leadership, just like President Chief NWODO, whom I respect so much, has outlined. This is a body led by the best brains that anybody can think about. And the next leadership will still be such best brains. And like he said, and we all believe in, among Ndi Igbo, ihe onye ọbụla kwuru bara uru. Ikwuo nke gị, onye ọzọ ekwuo nke, onye ọzọ ekwuo nke, atụkọta alụ niile ewelu nke kacha mma, nke kpọkọta uche mmadụ niile ewelu ya jebe. And this is where we are moving forward. An Igbo people, an Igbo organization, an Igbo nation that speaks one voice that caters for every interest possible.
Thank you very much.
Once again, I say thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. So I'll quickly bring in Prince Tony Eze. So that will be the last person we're going to take. Then we'll move on to the panelists. So Prince Tony Eze, please unmute yourself and make your submission. 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. My question is being directed to the President General, Chief John NNIA. In the last election that brought him in as our President General, I must say that a number of things happened that were not very pleasing to some of us who participated in that election. I contested as a vice president from Abia State. My opponent was disqualified in that election. The next morning, he remained disqualified until about 2 p.m. when another person was brought in to contest that election against me and was said to have been dictated from the governor of the state. Now, going forward, how are we sure that in this next election, that we are not going to see a situation where the governors of states will hijack Ohaneze elections again? And I must also point out that the institutions of Ohaneze from our various local governments were seriously damaged, because we saw a particular political party coming in to convert their ward executives as ESCOs of Ohaneze in the various wards as they are known in their political parties and in the local governments. Those ward ESCOs and so on now began to dictate issues for Ohaneze within the various local governments and so on. And it brought a lot of problems. And it was not pleasing to many of us at all. Again, going forward to diaspora voting, what is the guarantee that these people who are going to come from London, who are supposed to be delegates, who were appointed by their own people as delegates, those who come from Kano, those who come from Cote d'Ivoire, those who come from Ghana, will not be disqualified from voting as was done in the last elections? Many of these delegates came from their various locations to participate in that election. Before that election commenced, we had over 175 people who were initially accredited as diaspora delegates who were to vote, only for it to be changed. And the next thing we had was only 5 people who were going to vote. And many of these diasporans trooped in from various places, America and so on. They came for the election.
Thank you. Thank you.
I am saying, I'm asking the president, yes, what guarantees do we have that such anomalies will not continue to repeat itself again, and that the governors are no longer going to dictate to us who will be our president, who will be our secretary, who will be this and so on and so forth? This has eroded participation in Ohaneze and also rubbished a lot of things in the past.
That's fine. Thank you very much. We would now give Chief time to answer that question. But before he does, I would also want to add one question here that came in. It says, when can we know what position has been zoned to each state? I think that clarification, the positions, if they are known, or is it something that would be made public later? I will still have, or actually, I don't know, I have here Ambassador Umunna is here. I don't know if I should, Ambassador, if you can make your submission, so I will let Chief have the final word in case whatever you're going to say will need him to respond, so that he does that at once. So
I'd also like to, MAAZI, I would also like to make a comment, if you don't mind, on this.
Okay, that's fine. So Ambassador Umunna, please go ahead. Please, Chief.
Thank you very much, Roberto. Thank you so very much. Thank you, President General, for all the trouble you're taking on our behalf. I'm really sorry I have to apologize. I was in and out because of some other issues I'm monitoring for other people. I would like the President for OHANAEZE, when he's addressing the questions raised to him, please, could he include this thing? I have seen a webinar invitation by Nzuko Munna, and the idea is they are inviting many people who are supposed to be candidates for the OHANAEZE presidency election in January to come and be screened by the Nzuko Munna. And some of the candidates have spoken to me, and they're not particularly happy about that kind of being interviewed by people
screened by people, they don't even know what they stand for, how they stand for. So I would like the President General to address this matter. If there is synergy between the OHANAEZE leadership and these groups that are organizing these screening exercises and stuff like that, proposing them, because we don't want a situation where confusion will be raised. We have to get it right this time. Chief NWODO has left a shoe that is very difficult to fill. If we fill it to the wrong person, then we are going to march back 20 years. Please,
thank you very much.
To say at the moment, thank you.
Thank you very much. So before he do, I don't know, I think Dr. OKEYCHUKWU wanted to say something before, or was that Chris? Was that you or Dr. OKEYCHUKWU? Oh,
no,
okay. So is Chris? Was that you?
You mean Chris ASOLUKA?
Chief Chris ASOLUKA. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, I've been trying to unmute, but let Dr. OKEYCHUKWU carry on. Later, I'll make my point.
Okay. So, Dr. OKEYCHUKWU, can you please? I think he has internet challenges. Chief Dr. Chris ASOLUKA, can you please go ahead? Dr. OKEYCHUKWU has internet challenges, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Our PG, in my regards, EMEKA, you've done very well. And Dr. OKEYCHUKWU has spoken quite eloquently, both in English and in Igbo. The questions are very pertinent. And the last question, I think there was a group called Nzukomuna who said arranging a debate. I don't know if they have expanded it to include screening. And that calls attention to some states who have started screening even before the constitution of the Electoral Committee, which is supposed to give guidelines for other events or other activities to dovetail into. But when some states begin a process without an electoral committee named and without guidelines issued, it raises some suspicion. And I would like the PG to note that point, because the Electoral Committee is supposed to take care of guidelines and other activities to follow. But when these things happen before even the flag is raised, it creates a kind of doubt. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief Dr. Chris ASOLUKA for that wonderful observation. So I will now have Dr.
Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay, Dr. Okay, you're back now.
For me, very quickly, on the matter of people being invited for an interview, you cannot apply for a job at EZEOKE and then go for interview in Chidebere Transport. Yes, we need to call for group discipline. First, this is not surprising. There are so many platforms. It was raised during the consultations and the webinar. The process of reining in people to find and respect one credible platform, I think, is what is going on now. So this is not entirely surprising, but the way forward is simply for there to be an indication that an OHANAEZE leadership selection process is not something you take down to Obete or to INEC or wherever. It is OHANAEZE. So that will progressively encourage people who are probably being misled to know what platform to take seriously in this. Then the other one is with reference to the earlier comment about a previous OHANAEZE election. My observation there is simple and straightforward. It referred to the past, many aspects of which we are not proud of. And I believe that part of the intended positive outcome of this engagement and related engagements is that OHANAEZE will not have a future that will have the kind of elements about which people are not happy with regard to the past. I think that's to be noted. So it's not for the PG to be unduly belaboured in offering explanations for matters that were not in his hand, but the gentleman who spoke has brought to our attention a serious matter that should be noted and not be allowed to repeat itself going forward. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you very much, Dr. IKECHUKWU there. So I will now bring back the PG to, look at these questions that were thrown at him and, do justice to them. Then we wrap it up. Thank you very much, PG, once more.
Thank you very much, moderator. I thank everyone who has asked questions. It started with Franklin, somebody in London, and he was talking about a group that registered OHANAEZE in the First Commission. OHANAEZE is not an incorporated. It's not. It's and we register OHANAEZE subsidiaries if we begin the stabilization fund and begin to finance companies that are owned by OHANAEZE, then we register them for their business purposes. Affair is not registered in the Corporate Affairs Commission. Our consulting is not. PANDEF is not. So I don't really bother myself. And interestingly, the signatories to that registration are 3 people from Anambra North, one senatorial zone in Anambra State. I don't think that these 3 leaders, to be unknown to me and probably to many Igbos, have the capacity or mandate of an Igbo to register an organization for them. And I don't think that anybody takes them seriously. Now, regarding he didn't say something, but he talked about solidarity, and I hear his voice loud and clear. He represents what we would like to see going forward. I do not know if you hear me well, but I'm not very audible. But I don't know, moderator, whether I am.
I think there are some crackling noise somehow, but you know.
So anyway, let me go ahead.
Yes.
Prince Njenje talked about an incident that happened in the last election. I'm very, very grateful for the clarifications that I got from Dr. IKECHUKWU. This happened when I was also a candidate. So it's not my responsibility to explain why it happened, whether it happened. And there's no corroboration of this evidence. So I'm not even sure that this is totally true. But the opportunity now to watch the process and to ensure that the correct thing is done. Quite often elections, we'll find a reason. We know what is happening in America now. The president has refused to accept the election because it's lost. So we must also go into the election being ready to be very good sportsmen. It doesn't mean that the process was okay. Now, the state branches of OHANAEZE already have the zoning arrangements. And this zoning arrangement is not new. It has always been there. And there is only one way that you can, but we'll publish it next week anyway. Every position held by states and listed in alphabetical order, beginning from Abia, Anambra, Delta, Enugu, Imo, and Rivers. Every position held by a state now will be transferred to the next state in alphabetical order. For instance, Enugu right now has President General as well as Assistant General. Those are the only two positions Enugu has in the national executive. Now, Enugu, when we relinquish this position, we are going to relinquish it to the states ahead of us, which is Imo, in alphabetical order. If you write us as I invited it now, Imo will take every position that they has now. Now, every position that Imo has now will go to Rivers State. And every position that Rivers State has now will go to Abia. And every position that has will go to another. Every position that Anambra has will go to Delta. Every position that Delta has will go to Ebonyi. And every position that Ebonyi has will go to Enugu. This is the way it works. So that is my reaction to that question. Now, you raised the issue about Nzuko. So when we talk about all these affiliate organizations, you must know that not every affiliate organization is entitled to representation in our election. Because not every affiliate organization has registered with OHANAEZE. You can call yourself whatever you like, but I used to belong to Nzuko. It's a WhatsApp platform. Like this one conference I have, it's not registered with OHANAEZE. It is just an artistic effort by a leading Igbo in the name of EMEKA UGWU-OJU to bring us together to articulate a way forward. So this wine bar participation does not qualify anybody here to become a delegate. So you need to become a delegate from your state, or you need to become a delegate from a registered affiliate organization or a branch of OHANAEZE, which is registered and recognized by OHANAEZE leadership. And the list of this organization, and they will be published by the electoral committee. Well, I understand that last time some people came, thinking that once they were an organization anywhere, they can come to vote. But it's not true. If you never knew that OHANAEZE existed, you register with OHANAEZE, and before you get registered as an affiliate organization, you have to first of all apply to the National Executive. And the National Executive will have to look at the Constitution, see that it complies with the Constitution of OHANAEZE. We will have to attend your meeting. Look, there are not less than 500,000 writers inviting us to one activity or the other. And you find a woman may be controlling about on his computer, and he has no membership. When we say, okay, we want to attend your meeting, so we see how many you are there, so that we can know how to recognize the number of people you have in your organization, determine the class of delegates that you have. So you find that quite a number of them do not meet this requirement. Now, concerning the program of Nzuko, they have not consulted us. We do not recognize it. We will not patronize it. I mean, anyone is free to organize, invite those. They don't even know who is a candidate now because nobody has bought a form yet. And it's not binding on us. Anybody who wants to invite the candidates is free to invite the candidates. If they want to come, it is up to them, but it is not part of our program. And this is the problem that everybody wants to be on the driving seat, even without any legitimate claim to the driving seat. You know? So I noticed that the network is really bad and enough of people are typing in that they cannot hear me clearly. But there's nothing I can do about this. It must have to do with the weather somewhere between me and them. ASOLUKA raised the issue about state screening. Well, you know, if states are screening, it's not binding on us. But don't forget that wherever you have positions zoned to a state, belong to a state. I mean, if people in a state decide to have a meeting and reconcile conflicting ambitions, it's up to them. But you become a candidate once you buy our form. And whether your state supports you or not doesn't mean anything to us once you buy our form. You will be a candidate. You know? But if you have any way of pruning your case and making it easier for the election to go, please do whatever you like. But once we sell forms, all those who bought our forms are candidates, unless they decide to withdraw from the election. Who said something about interview? I can't remember what he said. I can't, but I think he was talking about the same thing that Ambassador Oja is about Muzuko Umuna. You know, everything being done for this election will be done under the auspices of OHANAEZE. And anyone who wants to message you is welcome to do so, but it's not binding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think obviously we have to, crack on because sadly, the internet at some point wasn't too helpful, but it's something beyond our control and there is nothing we can do about it. And we will be rounding up now. And to do that, we will have a vote of thanks. But before we do, I think if you can put it up on the screen, please, Dr. Elazo, also who was the chairman of the webinar one, is having his 90th birthday. I believe that is today. And please, yes, okay, that is being spotlighted now. So we'll say a very wonderful, happy 90th birthday to him. And on behalf of everybody, here we have, is being wished this happy birthday by Professor Pat Utumi, Dr. Patrick Dele Cole. Again, he was the chairman of the first webinar that we had, and he made fantastic contribution, very strong at 90. Many of us basically are praying that we get to that age, and he looked so healthy. Once more, we say, Honorable Dr. Omar Elazu, we say thank you and happy birthday and have a wonderful day. Now to
please let me make some correction, please.
Okay.
Yeah, why we are putting this is there's going to be an event on Thursday, which is 18th.
19th.
Oh, 19th, right? Okay. And CVL, founded by Professor Tomi, will be honoring him. And during that occasion, he will also have a book presentation. So we want as many people as possible who can be able to join him physically at the venue at Institute of International Affairs. But also, if you can't join physically, you can be able to watch it through the Zoom online.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, correction. Then we now go on, and I'm going to be calling on Mrs. Chinwe Ato, the CEO event BNC Fabs, to basically give us our vote of thanks. Then we wrap it up.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for coming out and joining us in this program. We are actually encouraging Obula. He continue coming out in your numbers to support our culture. Thank you so much, and God bless for me. Good night.
Good night. Thank you very much. Udo Deregi. Amam nena bane na asna nwata na-apị ụkwa na ya na ọlụ na-eme. I know na gị na ihe na-eme na etu isi wee chọọ ka ị na-enebara anyị anya gbasara ihe gbasara isi Igbo. Mana ị na-anwa, biko jide ka iji ezigbo nwaada anyị ka bịa bụrụkwa nwunye anyị. On that note, I will say thank you everyone for joining us. It has been a very fantastic, exactly 2 hours on the dot. and the timekeeping has been excellent. And I say thank you, all the participants, and all the panelists. I say thank you to Professor Anthony Ejiofor, who joined us from the United States, Chief John NWODO, who is the President General OHANAEZE Ndi Igbo. We have also Professor Zeke Obi. He didn't speak, but we also have Ambassador Omonna. And we also have Chief Dr. Chris ASOLUKA. We have Chinwato, Mr. Kalu Onuma. Obviously, the brain behind what we have done today, Mr. EMEKA UGWU-OJU. And we have our excellent broadcaster, that is Dr. OKEY, IKECHUKWU, who did a marvelous job both in English and in Igbo. That is a fantastic one. I think we're going to cut out that Igbo clip, and make sure that every Igbo person listens to that one, because that was well done. Also, Mrs. Ife Bozimo and Nobu Uchechukwu, Prince Tony EZEOKE Nwadinobi, and architect Ferdinand Agu, who also was the head of the communique, or rather was the chairman of those who basically put the communique together. And I thank everyone for joining us this evening. It has been a wonderful time that we have spent our time. We have sat down here for 2 hours deliberating and doing justice to the topic, just for the love we all have for the Igbo nation. We have over 500 people watching us simultaneously now online. These are also, for the last 2 hours, people, even they started waiting before we even went live. And on that note, I'll say, those of you watching us on Facebook, those of you watching on YouTube, I say thank you for being there, and thank you for staying true to the Igbo cause. And at that note, I say, Udo dulonye abuna, kachukwu dubai nchanine, kodila nchanine ma, anigbo, gadimma, n'iru anyị, anyị ga-edozi anigbo, ka anigbo bụrụ ebe anyị nchanine nọ ndụ tata, ga-achọ, ka anyị bụrụ ebe anyị ga-anọ na kaya nka, ka ọ bụrụkwa ebe ga-adịrị ụmụ anyị na ụmụ anyị mma, dịka ndị nna anyị fasi wee dobe ya, ka ọ ga-esi etu a wee dịkwala anyị nwe n'onwe anyị. Udo dịrị onye ọbụla. Good evening. Prof, thank you very much. Thank you.
Enwaka nna anyị NWODO ọnwaka, that is adụkwa ka anyị nwe onye ọzọ dịka ya.